My name is Wilkis Ideology Figuereo. I'm the CEO and founder of Itec Audio Studios. We're a school for music and audio technology here located in the state of New Jersey. And besides that, I'm an educator. I'm a Latino, born in Dominican Republic, and I'm a music producer and audio engineer.
Awesome. And I also like to ask people, who are you in general with besides what you do? Who
I
are you?
think
Yeah.
I'm just I'm a free spirited person who's always looking to learn new things and kind of challenge the norms, especially in myself, just trying to step out of the box and
Mhm.
try to do things that are different. That's always been my motto. I try not to go where the crowd is going. I try to usually go the opposite way and trying to experience new things on my own.
So I could tell because we met a while back through your sister
Right.
and we connected ever since. And then we lost touch. And I was like, oh my God, Lucas, I would love to have you on your podcast because I've been following what you do. And I didn't, before when I met you, you didn't have the school, you had the studio at home. And then now, like, you
Yeah.
expanded to the school, to a studio, you're teaching children. And I found that so admirable and amazing.
Thank you.
And I wanted to touch base on how did it start for you growing up? Like, I want to know about your journey, like growing up. How did you get involved in producing, interested in music? Obviously, it comes from our culture. We're Dominican, but
Yes.
like, what was it for you?
I think for me, obviously, I was born in Dominican Republic. In Dominican Republic, you just kind of grow up experiencing like the culture of
Mm-hmm.
your family is listening to and things of that nature. So I had, when I was over there, I had a lot of family who were living here in the United States that
Yeah.
would travel and bring music and play different styles of music. I was into Michael Jackson like everybody else in
Oh, yeah.
and stuff like
They
that.
even name kids Michael Jackson over there, right? It's like Michael Jackson, Perez, Chicon.
Exactly. So I was into all those artists, and of course, I used to watch MTV in Dominican
Mm.
Republic as a kid. But I never really wanted to I didn't take any lessons to play
Yeah, yeah,
instruments
yeah, yeah.
as a kid. When I came here to the United States in 1990,
How
um,
old were you when you came here?
I was 10 years old when I came.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
February 22nd, 1990 is when me and my sister we came together.
Yeah.
Um, so I lived in the Poconos for about a year, and that was like culturally a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
versus what I was used to. Of course, I was like the only person of color in the entire school.
Okay.
I was like into like beatboxing and things of that nature. So I joined like a little talent show, and I ended up winning the talent show, like just doing
You
beatboxing,
were just doing beatboxing? That's dope.
like like little hip hop stuff.
Yeah,
But I
yeah, yeah.
thought, oh, I'm going. This is what I want to do. That was never like my vision. When I was like
Gotcha.
13, my stepfather was in a merengue band.
Uh-huh.
So during that time period, grade seventh and eighth, I wasn't really into school. So
Okay.
so he kind of allowed me to go with him on like doing different shows that they used
Oh,
to.
that's fun.
So in order for me to get into these clubs, because I was
Yeah.
young, I had to go in and begin setting up the equipment. And the reason
Oh,
that I reference that is because I wasn't into it to the point where it's like, oh, this is what I want to do. But that was like the early training for me, being able to connect.
without you knowing, it was already opening something for you. Mm.
Exactly. So after that happened, I was really into like Spanish music, and then I started
Hmm.
getting more into the hip hop. I grew up in the '90s, so it was just
Yeah,
a great time for music. And
definitely.
my senior year of high school, I went to a vocational school. And my
Hmm.
senior year of high school, I took a class in music technology. I just took like one of the vocational classes because
Yeah.
I just wanted to try it out, and that really changed my life because I really got into
Oh.
it right after that.
So you're in this class, and what was it that sparked your interest? You were like, wait, how does this work? Like, were you like blown away? Like, what happened?
Obviously there was no internet back in the day, so
I know.
you couldn't
It's not
reference.
as it wasn't as easy as it is now.
So it was hard for people to understand, like, financially, it wasn't easy to be creative or to make music during
Yeah.
the time period. So anytime you think about making music, I always associated with instruments. So I didn't play
Hmm.
any instruments and anything like that. But when I was introduced to that class, they were making music using computers,
Mm.
music technology, and I was not aware that that existed.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got into it, and then I started learning about sampling and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. So it kind of blew my mind. I used to go home because I didn't have a computer or
Yeah.
through high school. And I used to go home just dreaming and thinking about going back to school so I could
Wow.
getting stuff. But I just couldn't do anything while I was at home. So, but that's
Did
really
anything come in you know how like artists we get like I'm not a musician, but like sometimes you'll get like beats or did anything come in your brain like during the time you didn't have the computer, but like did you have any ideas coming
you know what
while
was
you
funny?
explored that?
There was a movie that came out in the 90s. I don't know if you remember. It was a movie called Dead Presidents.
Yeah,
Right. So I remember watching that film and listening to the music that was in the film. And this is
yeah,
before I even took this class. And
yeah.
I was listening to it, and I was like, man, that would make like a really nice beat. Like, if somebody would take
Oh,
that and use it. And the funny part is after that, Jay-Z used a lot of those samples that I was listening to a movie for. They used
mm,
the producers used those samples for his first album. So
yeah.
I noticed, when I started making music that I had a good ear for like listening or finding samples. But I
Mm-hmm.
used to have a lot of ideas and I would make like we call them pause tapes where if I heard a beat like on the radio, I would record it with a double cassette,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
then pause the tape, rewind the part, play it, and then I would create little instrumentals just to like
Oh,
little freestyles and stuff over it. But that's how
that's dope.
yeah, just
You
mess.
still have those cassettes?
I'm sure there's somewhere. I don't know where, but there's somewhere.
But that's good because you kind of developed the ear that when you even heard people's music, you were like, "Oh, hold up, that's from this, that's from that." Like you're probably one of those people like, "Oh, wait, they sampled that from."
Exactly. I was able to pick that up pretty early on and
So
stuff.
what genre of music did you like were besides like hip hop and
As a
every
teenager, I was into obviously, merengue,
yeah,
bachata,
yeah, of course.
like classic music, salsa. And then I started really getting into like hip hop. I was used to listen to like a lot of Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. And then
Mm-hmm.
I got into like Mobb Deep. That was like my favorite group. It was just a great era for music, but really heavy hip hop and then R&B. I was really
Okay.
into a lot of R&B, listening to like Boyz II Men,
Mm-hmm.
Raphael Sadiq, things of that nature. That's like what I was consuming as a teenager. As I got older in my later teenage years, like my 18, 19, 20, I started getting more into like underground hip hop rather than the stuff that was
That
on
was just, yeah, mainstream, yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
And so what did you do anything with these cassettes or in school? Like what was your first producing like I would call it sample, right? What was your first that you created?
Well, I started taking my class in 1997, so
Uh-huh.
I was making beats in my class,
Okay.
but I was just making the beats that I was making
It
were
was
not
just to make it.
that was
Okay.
in class. They weren't that great. The first
To
time that
you, they weren't that great. But did somebody ever hear it? Or they weren't?
they weren't that great.
Okay, okay.
The first time I made like a beat that I felt like I was like, oh, this is actually better than like average. Uh,
Okay.
I met a guy when I was in college. When I went to college, my freshman year, I kind of forced my way into like a music production class,
Nice.
a class for juniors, but I was a freshman. And I just
Oh, so you couldn't take the class because you were freshman.
couldn't take the class.
So how did you get in?
So I asked about the class and they told me, oh, you can't take it because you're a junior.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was taking my freshman seminar with the dean of the fine arts department.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the dean and I was like, look, I took a class like this when I was in high school. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that I can keep up. I would love to audit the class as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took it, the spring semester of my freshman year. And when I was there, I was working in the lab because I had like
Yeah.
projects. And while I was working in the projects, there was a guy who actually walked into the studio. He was another student, but and he was like, "Man, I like what you're working on. We should work on music sometime." So I was like, "Yeah, I'll see you
Oh.
around." But I didn't see the guy around till like the following semester. When I saw him the following
Oh.
semester, he was like, "Hey, man, let's get together one day." And I bought like a piece of equipment that summer. That summer is when I decided that I was going to pursue music seriously. So I went
Okay.
and I spent like the most money I ever spent on anything casually It was like
Yeah.
$800 for me. $100 was a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
So I bought a sampler.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything with the sampler, which is for like recording sounds and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I took him to my dorm room and I showed him, like, I was so proud of this little piece of equipment that I purchased. And I'll send you a picture so you can see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And he was like, "Oh," he was like, "Man,
That's the one with the they're like the rectangle buttons.
yes."
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
wasn't one of the NPCs because I couldn't afford that, but it was just
Okay.
the Kai S2000. I still have
Okay.
it.
I don't I think I know what you're talking about, but yes, I'm in the picture.
All right. So he saw it and he was like, "Hey man, that's pretty nice." He was
Yeah.
like, "What are you doing Friday? Maybe we can get together. Home I have like a little setup." So when
Yeah.
I went to this guy's house, he lived in incredible. It was like MTV Cribs to me,
Oh, wow.
and he had like a full blown studio like in his basement, like way
Dope.
more equipment than what I had. But he wasn't like arrogant about it. He was like real humble. And I
Nice.
remember that I made a beat at his house. I needed to be able to get sound, so I programmed like a drum beat with his machine. He had like
Yeah,
an
yeah.
100, so I programmed a drum beat and I found a sample from a record, and
Mm-hmm.
I just literally recorded those sounds separately on a tape, and then what I would do with my sampler, I had a keyboard that one of my roommates let me borrow, and
Mm-hmm.
I would have to play the beat live, and
Okay.
that I made that I made something that I felt sounded good. And then what I did was I scheduled studio time so I could go to the studio and actually record and make the music and work on a song. And that's really how it started. But that was like the first song that I ever did, that I felt like when I heard it, I was
That
like,
was
man, this
good.
sounds like something is I think I'm better than average, you know?
Yeah. And did you find somebody who wanted to like either rhyme or sing? Was it like a hip hop track
Yeah, I did auditions in my dorm room. I was like, I'm
for
putting it.
people like to
No,
to
I never did it. So I was like, I'm gonna do
you had
audition.
about like auditions in Wilkis door.
So a few people auditions, and so it's like a freestyle thing, like everybody was rapping,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
about four guys that were left,
Yeah.
and then we scheduled a session, and out of those four guys, three guys showed up, which is me, a friend of mine by the name of Diamond Muhammad, and another guy by the name of Dave Casio, and
Mm-hmm.
and then we went and recorded our first song, and the
Mm-hmm.
funny part about that, the way we did that song, we didn't write the song together. We just didn't even talk about what the topic was. We just literally went to the studio.
And you
And
just freestyle.
no, we did the song, but we wrote about similar things. You know what I mean?
Okay. That's what I meant. Like you didn't know what each person.
Yeah, but
So
we wrote all about the same topic, which is pretty interesting. Which is like, wow, we're on the same.
nice.
You
What
know,
was that like?
it was cool because it was just like, oh man, it was the first time I heard myself like actually record something. And,
Yeah.
and then I had to make the beat with the sounds that I brought at the studio.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very expensive recording session. That was the first time I went and they put it on the tape, and we would just all of us had the tape, and we would just listen. I would listen to the song over and over and over. So it was like the first time. It's like a
Yeah.
big deal for me
Yeah, of course.
to do that, and then from there, I kind of evolved and continue growing on my journey.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what did that bring you, like discovering this gift that you had, because you didn't grow up knowing that that's what you were going to do.
I
But
did not.
as a kid, in comparison to what you found, what did that bring you and what did that do for you?
Well, it taught me a few things, you know. So one
Mm-hmm.
of the challenges that I had when I was pursuing my music as an artist and as a rapper or producer and stuff like that was that I was spending a lot of money going to the
Yeah.
studio, right? So I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he used to go and record songs somewhere else, not the same studio that I was going to.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him like, "Hey man, where are you recording?" And he
Mm-hmm.
explained to me, "I'm going to this guy. He's recording with this producer called his name was Famine."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I'm asking him how you're recording because I was recording to tape, to ADAT tapes during that time.
Okay. Yeah.
Sessions were very expensive, so I was trying to figure out a way to cut my overhead before
Yeah.
I do it. So I went to for a session with this guy, and it turns out that it was like a kid recording in his mother's bedroom, and he had this machine, which I have the machine here. Let me show
Yeah.
you. If you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. Show me the machine.
Yeah, so I literally just bought this machine again.
Okay.
Okay?
It
So
looks like
this
a lighting machine in the theater.
That's what it looks like, right? But
Yeah.
this the funny part is I was watching the Kanye West documentary, and he was
Yes, we were. My husband and I were watching it too.
this is the machine he was recording on the same machine when he was doing his first album.
Mm-hmm.
It had this machine in his room, and it's a Roland VSA 40, and he was
Mm-hmm.
recording songs, himself, like at home.
Dope.
And I saw that, and the kid was like, I was 20, he was like 17 years old.
Nice.
It blew my mind because I was like, I felt like I can do what he does, but I've never really thought about that. So I
Yeah.
was saving up money and I bought my machine. And when I got my machine, it eliminated the need for me to have to go to the studio and spend that money. We're going to the studio like once a month, just put it on.
Oh,
We're going to college. We're struggling college students.
and then,
So,
but that's what artists do, of course. Right?
That's right. That's what we got to do to make it. But once I started recording myself, it made me into an entrepreneur because now I was like, man, I can charge other people to record them. So when I was in college, I would charge people to record $60 a song. And I said, you can take as long as you want, but I knew that I knew workflow. So I knew that I can record a song in 30 minutes. So I was doing, 5 or 6 recordings per week.
Nice.
In my pocket that was helping me fund and buy equipment. So it turned me into like an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it did.
And it just transitioned for me from being just a producer. Now I became like a recording engineer, and I'm able to, recording other people and making music for them. So it just opened me up to something that I didn't even think it was possible.
So you're now an entrepreneur at that point. So what did you do? Like now you're producing music, you're recording other people. By any chance, did you ever record something that you rhymed in, or all the thing was samples?
That's all I was doing. I was in a group. So the group, I told you, was 3 guys.
Yeah.
2 guys. We were in a group called The Actual Facts, and we do our songs, record our songs, and we would do a lot of performances, especially in the underground circuit in New York City. We would actually perform every week at this place called the End of the Week, which is still running. It's like the longest open mic in New York City. The New York Poets Cafe. We would
nice. Yes.
a Wednesday of the month, we will go there and perform, and that was really, we used to do a lot of college performances. We opened up for Common one time.
Oh, dope.
We that's what we were doing. We were heavily pursuing that stuff. The guy who I was in a group with, his dream wasn't really to do music. So obviously, as you get older, you get responsibilities.
Yeah.
So they shift elsewhere. So he wasn't as dedicated to coming to the studio and working on music. But I didn't stop working on music. I kept continuing doing it in different facets.
When did you stop? When did the group split up?
I think the last song we ever recorded, like for us, we recorded a song around 2008.
Okay.
And then a friend of mine, Dr. Daniel Jane, he was doing an album. He's like a dean and a professor at like Montclair State.
Yeah.
About us, because he used to work at the college we work with. And he was an educational album, and he asked us to get on a song. So we did a back and forth, and but that was like probably 2014. So we haven't done music together, me and this guy, in a long time. And he's like a minister now, he's in Islam. So we don't.
You don't think he's gonna?
I'm sure that.
I'm like, would you ever do a reunion?
Now, I doubt it, but I'm sure that me knowing him, I'm sure that he writes because he was very articulate in his ways. So I'm sure that he continues writing. I just don't think that he doesn't look at music like that's the thing that he wants to do.
Of course.
So me neither. I'm not trying to pursue that piece of it. I am working on an album because a lot of my friends were like, yo, just because it's easier to release music. So like,
now
release the stuff, everything that you guys did, just put it out.
I was just gonna ask you, like, where is that stuff? Where can people? Do you have it released, or you just have it in your what is it you call it, your file cabinet?
I show you that machine, right?
Yeah.
What that machine during the pandemic, because I found a whole bunch of discs that I recorded songs in. from
Mm,
that time, and I needed to digitize everything, and I didn't have that machine anymore, so I saw it on eBay pretty cheap, and I bought it,
nice.
able to transfer a lot of those old songs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a double-edged sword. So what happens is a lot of that music was my early age experimentation and learning the process of
Yeah,
recording.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The quality of those recordings, it's not amazing.
Yeah,
So I'm very critical with the things that I do now. It has to be like at a certain level.
gotcha. But what's the message behind the music that you're singing? Is there a message behind it, or it's just like,
Conscious hip hop. So we're talking.
nah? So then, what's wrong with that? I feel like sometimes when you have a good message, sometimes you need to. Not that quality is not great, but sometimes people will disregard that because they want to hear the message.
I understand what you're saying, and that's
I
what all of my friends tell me. Just put it out. It doesn't
so you see,
but I listen to them like, yeah, and I'm like, man, this could be so much better. Like, but so I
but
have
that's what if you think about it, that's not you now doing it. That was something you did before. So it's showing, look, this is who I am now, but this is what I threw out. And if it's conscious music, hell, you should do it.
I'm
I
thinking
want to hear it out. You want to tell me, oh, I got it out. I too.
everyone was there. There's a couple songs that I can recycle, but I'm working on a project right now.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
gonna release that is gonna have a combination of music that I've worked on, like as a producer, like, and
Yeah.
it's not like one genre. It's like a lot of R&B, soul
Yeah.
that I've been doing,
Dope.
and I'm thinking about putting a couple of those songs
Yeah.
um in there, just as throwaways. But
Nice.
yeah, but we'll see what
What's
happens.
what's like one of the songs about? Like about is it about your life or is it about the times?
So there's a couple songs,
Mm-hmm.
we have from the top of my head. There's various different types of songs because I wanted to kind of be able to speak to different people.
Yeah.
So a song that I know was very powerful that I had to be careful when I play around certain people because I didn't know their experience. We
Yeah.
have called Black Princess that was
Mm.
on that project that was about uh, a young woman who was like molested by her
Okay.
father. So it tells a story and what's
Oh.
happening and stuff like that. And I didn't know that happens to a lot of people. So I remember one time I played it for somebody and I didn't know what happened to them and it kind of affected them.
Oh.
And so we have songs like that. I also have a song called When We First Started, which is a relationship song. Because
Okay.
people in a relationship for a while, things are not the
Mm-hmm.
same. And they're like, oh, you don't treat me like this, like when we first started. So it was like that kind of thing. Girl meets, boy meets girl, they get together and then they
Life
break
happens.
attention. Yeah, yeah. So
What's
that's
the writing process like for you?
during that time we would try to create like I would make the music. That's really how it was. I would make the music.
Mm-hmm.
I was very good at like when I made a track, like having an idea that we should do a song about this.
Yeah.
And at first, the guy who I was in a group with, he just wanted to be the most lyrical MC. That's what that was his thing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I understand what you're saying, and I like what you're saying, but the average person doesn't understand what you're saying because they don't write lyrics. So
Yeah.
find a way to connect with the
So that you
audience.
can connect with the audience.
Yeah, and say things in a way that is simple but also powerful. So you can have songs that are really serious, but
Yeah.
you have other songs.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorite songs that we did was a song called "Good to You."
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you want to say something to a girl, like you can't go up to a girl and say, "Hey, I want to have sex with you." You can say, "Hey, I want to be good to you," and it's like a double meaning
Oh, okay.
thing. Like
Good.
songs like
Try to get in smooth.
yeah, I want to be good to you.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That kind of stuff. So I was in a creative mode. We also have a song called "Frantic" on
Mm-hmm.
on an album, which is about a guy he's happy because he's leaving his girl, but it's really about him leaving his drug addiction behind,
Oh,
like that. So it's like a whole.
that's
To me, it was a pretty good project.
was it an easy process writing for you?
For me,
Or
I wouldn't say writing came like super easy to me in the
mm-hmm.
beginning. It didn't like I would take my time with my ideas. Some people just
Mm-hmm.
write like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fast, but it all depends. It all depends on like the energy that you have and
Definitely.
where you're trying to go with it. So So I always, for me, I always try to take my time when I was doing my verses to make sure like everything was good and the timing was good, because during that time, the technology wasn't, you had to really perform the entire song. We were doing what we call linear recording.
Okay.
You know, nowadays you can copy and paste,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
or it's like recording to tape. You had to let the song
You
play.
had to go. Okay.
Great. So you have to have like say it, do it in one take.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's like a challenge. So you have to really know how to execute and practice to make sure that you got everything as clear as you could when you were recording. Now it's super easy. Now you can do one
Yeah. You
word.
can just go. That's why so easy.
Yeah, it's
What
crazy.
was the most challenging thing for you during that with that process?
I think for me, especially with my production early on,
Mm-hmm.
not having the access to sounds,
Okay.
limited. You have to buy synthesizers.
Mm-hmm.
Synthesizers were very expensive, and
Mm-hmm.
to make music that sounded sonically
Mm-hmm.
competitive with commercial releases was very difficult, like in the early 2000s, unless you had access to big studios that had all of this hardware and things of that nature, and then to
Yeah.
clean it up and make it sound a certain way.
Yeah.
Very expensive now, because we're using computers and all the programs have all the sounds, we have all of the effects and things of that nature. It just makes it easier for you to make something that sounds pretty good.
Definitely. And how about your family? How supportive were they with your journey? Because I know, especially in our culture, like, oh, wait, tú vas a ser un qué? Tú no vas a ser un doctor,
i'm,
like, so what
I'm,
was that like for you?
I'm gonna say that my mother never made me feel like I was wasting my time,
So,
so she never put that out there.
mm-hmm.
But I would say that there were other people who would say things to other people, because people would tell me
Yeah.
like I was wasting my time. Oh, he's going to school for this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
so for me, I found pretty early on, like kind of my path and what I was doing. I was like self motivated.
Yeah.
I try not to listen to what people said,
Of course.
and I just kept
You
doing
kept
what
doing what you believed in yourself.
exactly. So people,
Yeah.
you waste the money on this equipment
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like that. I wasn't really trying to date anybody. I was like focused on
Focused.
yeah, I was just focused. And now when people see me, I remember I was with a friend of mine and he saw my studio, and this is like one of my college roommates, and he was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, he just couldn't believe it. He's like, dude, I remember when you first started,
Mm-hmm.
what you have now. So you just gotta have that tunnel vision when you're trying to accomplish your goals. And sometimes, some people give you real advice, some people give you, bad advice. You got to kind of listen to both, but figure what, take heed to what you think is going to help you push forward.
Were you always like that confident and with the believing in yourself? Because I know a lot of young kids they struggle with that, or they don't have a foundation. Was there somebody that you was like a mentor to you who helped you, or this was just like you were born like with this hustle?
I'm going to say that fear of struggling was definitely a big motivation. Okay. the fear,
Facts.
the fear of being in that cycle, I mean,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I'm from a wealthy family.
yeah.
So I would say that that was definitely like a factor on whatever I wanted to do. The
Mm-hmm.
other aspect is I definitely have very good mentors, not necessarily in music, but like in school.
Yeah.
I had a guy who was my English teacher. His name is Tom Colleen.
Mm,
Was like a father to me,
nice.
and I'm wearing his retirement watch. He passed
Wow.
away a couple
Oh
years ago.
wow. May he rest in peace.
They gave me his retirement watch. I gave the year,
Wow, that's powerful.
but he was one of those people who used to always tell me like, you're gonna do great, like believe in
Mm.
yourself, and he was like a big motivator for me, and so that helped. I was always looking for like a big brother in the music
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, your father was in a musician, no, right? He was in a merengue band.
My stepfather was in a
Oh,
merengue
your
band.
stepfather. Okay.
My stepfather wasn't around for the whole journey, and
Gotcha.
wasn't really as mature, for me to learn from him as a man. He wasn't really that
Uh,
ready.
Okay.
He was, he wasn't a mature guy for that.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was one of the people who did not think I was going to be able to do well in his
Mm.
so but I kept pushing and and kept like just going for what I believe I needed to do. So it confused a lot of people. And you got to remember during this time, while I'm in college, I started subbing and I started like teaching music classes, but that wasn't really the primary hustle. The primary hustle was me try to do this
To
music.
pursue, yeah.
And at some point in my journey, I realized when I would go to like around certain people who, were successful, certain producers that had like songs on albums and
Yeah.
I will be around those guys. I realized that they didn't have the same knowledge base that I had. I would
Mm.
assume that because you're doing this, what I'm pursuing, that you are going to be as educated as I am on all of these things. So I found myself in certain rooms where I'm the smartest person in the room, and people would ask
Mm.
me questions. So they were like, "Hey, can you help me out with this? Can you show me?"
Oh,
So that's how the teaching thing kind of started outside.
nice.
And so I was going to a point where I was like traveling and doing a lot of freelance work for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
studios, teaching on one-on-one classes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to the point where I was like, I can't really do this. And I decided to combine the two. And then I decided to open up a school in 2010.
Ah, that's how it came about. So then now you are, so now you decided to combine these two. So what did you have to do in order to get that done? And what was that process like for you?
So when I was working at the school,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was a program that the school created, and they asked me, "Hey, we're going to add this program. It was a project-based program,
Yeah.
and they wanted to have a small music technology program there.
Mm.
So I needed to put a lab together, and I never did that before. So I had to price out like the workstations, everything that I needed. And when I did the numbers, it wasn't as expensive as I thought it was going to be. That was the
Mm.
first thing. So at first, I was like, "Hey, maybe I can use." I asked the guy who was my mentor. He became my boss, believe it or not.
Oh,
After
wow.
I said, "Look, I'm trying to do this." He was like, "Look, if you want to get started, come on the weekends and use the room that you built here at the school, but
Dope.
keep it on the low." So I started doing that, but the problem was I couldn't really I couldn't promote it.
Okay.
Couldn't promote it. So I decided that I wanted to, in my head, like I need to open up a place to do this. And during that time, I had a recording studio with a couple of guys. We were like,
Mm-hmm.
we had a space where people would come and do sessions and record and
Mm-hmm.
tracks for them and all that stuff. So I had like a little separation with one of the guys in the studio, and I needed to leave.
Okay.
That's when I made up my mind where I was like, the next studio that I open is
It's
going to
gonna
have
be.
a school in it. And everybody was
Oh,
like, "Oh, so I started writing things on a piece of paper, like
yeah.
names for my studio.
Yeah.
First INT, then I wrote it down on paper, and then I did a video promoting the studio that didn't exist. Like
Oh,
it still the video is out there, it still exists. And I did a video in my classroom, and I was like, "Yeah, we're a school for this," and I didn't even have a place for it. I just
wow. Yeah.
when I put it out there, people started hitting me up like, "Hey man, let me know. I want to take a class," and blah blah blah. So then I found a location, and
That pushed you even more because you were like, I said it. Now I got to do it.
so that's what happened. So then I set it up, and everybody was confused. How are you going to have a studio and they didn't see the vision?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Then that's how it started. I started with one class. I was just doing production, and
Yeah.
then started evolving. I wanted to make sure those students came back, so I started
Yeah.
growing my career. And then I started that in 2010, and I'm still doing it now.
Look, I know. And you expanded, right? Is it the school's bigger?
Yeah, right now
You have teachers or it's just you? You're the teacher.
I have other instructors that
Instructors, not teachers. Yeah.
I have a vocal class that we run, and I have a guitar class, a music
Oh,
theory
dope.
that we teach. Right now, like I said, I'm under construction because I'm building a studio, like a bigger location,
Yes, yes, yes.
same building that I'm in. So I transitioned, and even through this pandemic, the virtual piece was something that I didn't do before.
Mm.
Whole thing. So that created like a whole revenue stream of
Because
like,
now you can expand it outside of New Jersey.
that's what I'm doing. I taught classes yesterday. I taught two classes virtual, and everybody was all over the place, like all over the country. So I get a lot of people that come to learn from me, do training, college professors, artists,
Nice.
a whole bunch of people, reach out to me. And then as a part of that piece, I will always make recommendation to people like, hey, they ask me what program should I buy, what plugin should I use, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
always making recommendations. So what I started doing, I started partnering up with these companies so
Mm.
I can sell them and sell the software and get a piece of the stuff if I make a recommendation.
You
When,
get you get a percentage.
so I have like an online store where I sell like music equipment and software
Hmm.
as well called Shop Itec Audio.
So how do you feel now, like looking back to your journey? Like, what what's one word like you can tell yourself, like, wow, look how far you've come along. Like, how do you feel at this moment?
I think that there's still a long way for me to go, and
Of
like
course, you're always learning and growing. But
oh,
right now, like if you look at yourself in the mirror right now, what would you tell yourself?
I would say, trust your instincts. 'Cause I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like,
And
um,
you have. Look at you. You made that video, you didn't have anything.
have anything. Sometimes people that are close to you, people who love you, are not
Yeah.
going to understand your vision. It's just not, they're not going to understand your vision. So you have to kind of, try to communicate that as best you can, but sometimes you can't communicate it. You just got to do it by actions. And then they'll see it. Because some people will think that, oh, you're just wasting time and you're wasting money. Whether you spend this money on this microphone or whatever the case may be, or whatever you
Hmm.
invest in, they don't see what happens, in the process. So now, like a lot of people that were doubters, they call me for help and information, So I look at it like my journey is still beginning. I'm looking to try to retire, and I want to empower. Not now, obviously, I got like
In
10
the
years,
future. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I look to empower like the next generation of people. That's my thing,
The
It's about.
youth.
And so with my new studio that I'm going to be opening up, I'm not going to be the one running the sessions. I'm going to have the projects that I do, but I'm also going to have other young people that I've probably trained to come in and run some sessions. So the way that I had my original school set up is that I had everything in one room. So
Mm,
'cause I knew that if the classes didn't work, I can always go back to recording people. And it's
definitely.
where the classes supersede the recording piece. But if I wanted to do a recording session, I can't have both going on at the same time. So the new space that's under construction that I'm building right now, separated the two. I have a separate recording studio and a separate classroom, so I can
So
have
you
more
can do both.
happening at the same time.
So what keeps you motivated?
Well, the fear of failure keeps me motivated.
Okay.
I definitely, I have children now, so
Yeah.
obviously, once you have a child, you don't think selfishly. You think about their well-being and making
Mm-hmm.
sure that you do things for them and that they have the opportunity to be successful. So I'm always thinking about not struggling. That's like
Yeah.
I want to make sure that my kids have every opportunity that I didn't have growing up,
Mm-hmm.
which they're pretty blessed. We didn't really take vacations when I was a kid, which is like
Yeah.
I don't
Nope.
remember asking for anything. Like I don't
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
for a pair of
Our
brand
vacation was the beach, like an hour away.
new away from, spaghetti con salami and stuff like that.
Exacto. Oh my God, but that was so good, like in the park.
Yeah.
When they come
So,
with the olla. Yo, that tasted so good.
yeah. So now I just try to like, make sure that I'm learning. I want to make sure because at some point we get older, our mind
Yeah.
they begin to slow down. That happens. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to stay sharp as I can, always reading, always learning new things, diving in. Right now, like at the school, because I still work in a school. I'm a supervisor there. I'm a supervisor of
At the
instruction.
school that you went to before?
The school that I graduated from the school. And
Wow, that's great.
I'm in charge of the vocational program right now.
Nice.
Became a teacher. Now I run the music and audio technology program. I'm in charge of all the vocations. I'm a supervisor, and we expanded their facility. We added a program that never existed there.
Wow,
We built a $3 million facility, and this
that's dope.
that I designed in collaboration with an architect. And that same architect's the one that's designing my new school.
That's just okay.
So his name is Dave Koch, and that was like something that I was pushing. Like I could have been
Mm-hmm.
doing it for 22 years. I could have just been laid back and chill out.
Yeah, and just stay there.
But it was all about challenging the norms. It's like hey,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that we do things at a higher level and always just making connections. So I'm always doing different things. Last week, a song that I produced was released because I'm working on Brazilian music now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I met some Brazilian artists and from Rio de Janeiro. and
Dope.
I produced the track for them that was actually released. Really nice.
Nice. You got to share that with me. Is that the one that you posted on Instagram?
I I think I did.
That it was there was a woman singing.
Yes,
Ah, okay. Yes.
yeah,
I
yeah,
did see that. That's dope. Oh my
yeah.
God, that's amazing. So now, what was it like for you? You mentioned your father, and I want to tap into that. Like, you found out you were going to be a dad for the first time. What was that? What was that? What did that do for you?
Besides make me
Both sides
scared,
freak out. Besides make you freak out.
yes, I wasn't freaking out.
You weren't okay.
Freaking out like to the point. It was obviously my journey was a little bit different. I didn't plan like
I was going to ask you, was it planned? Or was it okay?
it wasn't planned, but I felt like that I left the decision, you know, and I just said whatever I need to do, I have to be a responsible
You
man
stepped up.
and step up and handle it. So I had to learn. Like I said, I didn't grow up with my father,
That's what I
so
was going to ask you. That's why.
I didn't grow up with my father, so I had to kind of learn that process. And
Mm-hmm.
so my daughter, which is she's 17, she's
Mm-hmm.
a senior next year.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
So I learned a lot, like how to be responsible, how to be focused, because I was just really making music and I didn't really
So
care.
when you found out your daughter was going to be born, that was back way back. Like you hadn't started your business, right?
I didn't have my business, but I had like
You were,
I
that
was
was
just
when you were in college, right?
doing songs. No, I was out of college. I was 20
Okay. Oh, okay.
out of college working in the school.
Okay.
I was still doing the hip hop thing during that time,
Okay.
2004. And the funny part is I had my first apartment, and I had a little studio in Hoboken, little room that I had rented,
Yeah.
but I was like I could do this stuff in my apartment.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I had to kind of shut down a lot of the things that I was doing. Like I wasn't really doing this many shows as I would normally do.
Mm-hmm.
Of that nature, I couldn't have, I wasn't really doing sessions like I would normally.
Yeah.
At some point, I would say maybe 1 or 2 years in, I was like, 2 or 3 years in, I started, you know, leaving Sundays for that. So on Sundays, I would go to Harlem, work on music,
Okay.
and stuff like that. And then I would do like little sessions. I had like an extra room in the apartment that I was living at, and I started doing like sessions there. But I realized you can't really bring people to your house,
Yeah.
kind of things. And then from there, I would say 2008 is when I opened up a studio again, and I partnered up with a couple of guys just to make the burden a little bit less as far as financially on the
Yeah.
plate. And I was just doing that. So I opened up my studio, and I was making money doing that. That's how I started. And then from there, 2 years later, that's when I decided to open my school.
Oh, so during that process, you found out you were gonna be a dad. So you're like, oh God, I'm gonna have a dad. I'm a daughter. What's gonna happen? Like, what were you thinking? What was going on in your mind?
I didn't even know what I was thinking. I was just not ready. I was not in a financial position where
Yeah,
I take care of myself, you know,
exactly.
and my wife and a baby. It's just like I just did not feel like I was in a position to be able to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
I've one of the things that I can say that I'm very proud of, and obviously everybody's situation is different. I've never received any help and any public assistance. Like I actually knuckled down,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't like easy the entire time,
Of course
but,
not.
I was able to do it. My wife, she didn't have to work. She took care of the kids.
Wow.
Because obviously daycares are very expensive. I'm sure you.
Oh, yes, they are.
So I was like, don't worry about it. I'm going to handle it and take care of what I needed to handle. So I did some things, professionally to make sure that, so
Yeah.
I got my master's during that time period,
Okay.
and just working educationally. But the need to make money and do different things were always there. So I will buy computers for, and then flip them, set them up for music and then sell them,
Okay.
or
Okay.
go into a studio to set up somebody's studio, and I would make money like doing freelance work while
Okay.
while I was working my job. I would do the
You
freelance
would do
work,
the side hustle.
the side hustle, and that's really what kept me going. Like I would just make extra money doing stuff. Somebody said, "Hey, can you come? I'm trying to. I just bought a whole bunch of equipment. Can you help me set it up?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And charge them for a couple hours of work and do it. And that's really how I started meeting people, and then people would recommend me, and I would get
Okay.
calls. Hey, that's how I met a lot of people. Would get calls like, "Hey, this person gave me your number. I'm trying to use this program. Can you show me how to get it up and running?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, so I had a lot of like, I call them clients, but they were like students that I would
Yeah.
go. I
Yeah.
remember there
Yeah.
was a guy who had a crazy amount of equipment at home.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know how to use any of it. Somebody hooked it up for him, and he wanted to learn how to hook everything up. So I was like,
Okay.
let's just take everything apart, and I'll
And
show you how
start
to hook it
fresh.
up and teach you about it. So I will have him every week. We will do like those kind of classes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When I opened up my school, I was like, I can't be going to Brooklyn, going over here to everybody's home studio or whatever. I need everybody to come to
Come
me.
to you. Yeah.
So that's one of the motivations for opening up the school Itec Audio.
So then your dad, how did you figure out for yourself, because you didn't have a father figure, right? So now
Right.
you have this child, you're not only providing, but now how did you come to the mindset to learn like, wait, I'm not here only because in our culture, we grow up, the father's just a provider, but they're not there really emotionally because that's just the way they were raised. They don't know.
Sure.
So how did you figure out on your own, like, wait, I need to be here for my daughter even more than just being a provider?
Well, now I have 3 kids, just to put it out
Oh,
there.
wow, you have three. Okay, so great.
My daughter was 7.
Congrats.
Thanks. My daughter is 17. Then I have my son who's 10. So that was like,
Mm-hmm.
right. And then I have
Mm.
an 8-year-old daughter as well. So
Oh, wow.
I try to treat my kids the way that I want it to be treated. That's my approach, you know.
Yes.
Even so, my daughter goes to school where I work at, and
Really?
I give her the flexibility and the freedom
Nice.
to be her. I'm not like a, satellite dad. Like, hey,
Yeah,
I'm not.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I try to be as laid back as I can as possible. If I need to be firm, it's all with respect. I've never hit my kids, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just try to talk to them and just try to make them feel good and reward them when they do well. I try to reward them and make sure that you do good things. You get
Mm-hmm.
rewarded, and just try to make sure that they enjoy. I take them on vacations every year. I try to work hard to make sure I take them somewhere so they can enjoy their childhood, so they can have good memories.
Yes, yes, yes.
Keep it a balance. I don't spoil them. I don't give them
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, because they have to earn it too. Because nowadays a lot of kids they don't know that.
Yeah,
They don't
exactly.
know they don't know how to hustle and earn.
Exactly. So I make sure that anything they do is like, okay, what are you gonna do in order for you,
Okay.
so I try to teach my kids like that. Obviously, their experience is not going to be the same
Of
experience
course not.
as our experience growing up because it's just a different time, different circle.
Mm-hmm.
But I just try to treat them the way that I want it to be treated, the way that I want it to be loved as a kid, and I think that translates, to the way that they look at me and the way that they respect me.
Yeah. And do are any of them? You say your daughter goes to your school, so she's sort of following in your footsteps, maybe? Does
She
she like?
used to be into music heavily as a kid and all that stuff. Like
Mm,
going to the studio with me. She was to play the violin and she was in honors
nice.
all the way to she graduated 8th grade. So she decided after 8th grade that she wanted to be a dancer. So she joined the dance program at the school that I'm in. I wasn't upset about it. I was just like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever makes you happy. So one thing I'll say about her, man, she puts the time in. Like she's really good at what she does, but she
Mm-hmm.
put the time in. So even during the pandemic, when they were home, she was taking
Virtual.
pulled into a dance school and she was taking classes like 6 days a week on,
Nice.
on work and stuff like that. So she's really passionate about it and she
I
likes
could
it. So
tell.
every night I see her stretching and practicing
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because she feels like she has to catch up because she started late. So
Yeah. That's how I was. I was a dancer before I was an actor.
she likes it. And she actually took a theater elective this year. So
Nice.
she was in the play and stuff like that. And but she's good. I think she's gonna be successful no matter what she does. She's
Yeah.
driven,
And she has a supportive dad and I'm sure a supportive mom. So
Yeah. And she got the curly thing going on.
she got the curly hair.
Yeah, curly. Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you one last question before we go to the next segment. I want you to what do you want uh people to you remember you by, and what do you want to tell the youth who are growing up and trying to either go into your field or something that they believe in? What advice would you give them?
The best advice I can give people is don't be afraid of the work. Don't be afraid of doing the work. Um, things don't come easy. For me, I was not the most talented person. I wasn't like naturally gifted at the things that I do. Like I had to put the time in to get to the point of where I'm at now, and I'm still working, getting better and better. So that's one of the things that I noticed about young people. When the journey gets a little bit difficult, they kind of, you know, quit a little bit early, or stray away from the challenging pieces. They want things to come very easy to them, and that's not always the case. So for me, I want to be remembered somebody who never settled for mediocrity.
Mhm.
Always wanted to do the best that you could.
And what do you want to leave behind with, I mean, not what do you want to leave? What's your ultimate goal with what you're doing now with the school?
I want to retire by the age of 52.
And
Yeah,
what do you want to leave the kids?
I want to be I want to be on the beach making
You want
music.
to go to the beach and make music.
That's my goal. I want to be able to retire early and not have to worry about anything financially. That's the first thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that's it. That's when my little one graduates high school. I'm literally retiring. Yeah, I'm out of here. And
You're gonna run the school and then you're gonna leave everyone else
I'm
there
gonna retire from education,
from
like
education, but you're still gonna have your
I
school
get my pension. But I'm hoping that by that time, my business is still
running.
and doing what it needs to do. That is running where to the point where it doesn't need me. Right now I'm actually in training with that piece. I do have other instructors that do classes when I'm not there,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the driving force behind what's happening there is me. I want to
Yeah.
get to the point where it doesn't have to be me. Like I don't have to be there. People
Okay.
me. Oh, I want to learn with this guy, and that's.
Yeah.
But it should be more about the place rather than
Yeah.
me. That's what I'm working towards.
What does being a teacher bring you? What do your students teach you?
I think that being patient is is one of the things that definitely you get out of it.
Facts.
Yeah, you gotta be super patient. In my field, I don't sugarcoat things for students. I kind of tell them like the real from the very
Yeah.
beginning. Talk to them very firmly. So I do intimidate some kids who are not ready for that kind of critique, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to prepare
But
them
you need to for the real world.
for the real world, especially in the artist community.
Um,
You can't go in there and be like, "Oh, this is great,"
no.
and it's bad. So I try to make sure that I let them know that
Mm-hmm.
process. But I love seeing those students grow because they come in very shy, like they're super shy, and then by the time they leave, you see like the confidence that they have. They're able to communicate and talk to people, and
Mm-hmm.
you kind of become connected to those kids for a long time. Like I have students because I've been doing it for 22 years. Like
Yeah.
they're adults now, and
Mm.
so it becomes like this community of people that you can always tap into, and they always, they're my biggest supporters. They're the ones that make recommendations. They
Mm-hmm.
come back. One of the other reasons I opened up my school is because a lot of the graduates wanted to continue the learning and
Mm-hmm.
for them to go to. So I just think that they're the foundation to everything that I'm doing now.
Nice. So we're gonna go to the last segment, and I have these cards. I'm shuffling them, and I don't know what the question's gonna be. So
No problem.
it has two questions.
Mhm.
So let's see what it says here. The first question is, do you identify as a spiritual person? And if so, what? In what way?
I'm definitely spiritual rather than religious.
Yeah.
So I'm spiritual because I believe that there's a higher power, there's a higher energy that drives us to do the things
Hmm.
that we do. So I definitely believe in that piece, but not in the religious sense.
Okay. And what is more important to you, justice or forgiveness? Oh, that's a good question.
Wow, that's a tough one.
Right?
I'm going to say forgiveness is more important. I think that you know, it's harder to forgive somebody than to claim justice or seek justice or vengeance. I just think that, being yourself clear, having a clear mind, know that you don't have any anger or animosity towards anybody is good. But that takes time, especially for me.
Okay. And I also think with forgiveness, from what I learned from my spiritual teacher, is like you have to forgive yourself, because a lot of times people are looking for forgiveness for somebody else, but the forgiveness comes from with you because you're the ones who gave your power to the other person. So once you forgive yourself, then that person can do, it's up to them, because whatever they did to you was their problem, not yours.
That's right.
Right.
Uh-huh.